pairs. Usually you buy one at a time, but I would highly recommend getting two if you're going to bother with doing this at all. I would actually put this into the hand wraps of the boxer so it's far, far more secure. For the sake of doing the odd one punch test when the glove's going on and off of lots of people, well, that's fair enough, you can put it into the glove Velcro, but it's far better to go into the hand wraps. So I wanted to do a video because a lot of people asked me, what do we use these for when we're testing boxers? Obviously these things were good enough to test the speed of people's jabs or of any punch. They can also throw out such things as volume of punches, how many punches you do, how fast the punch is, how hard the punch is, it's measured in G-force. It can measure retraction time, that means how fast the punch comes back. Here, as a general rule, we would want that punch to come back in under 0.4 of a second, otherwise your opponent's likely to get one or two shots on in that time. So what I wanted to do is to do a quick video just to explain what I would use these for when I'm actually coaching competitive boxers. Now, for a personal trainer, when they're doing this, these things can be used purely as a measuring punch volume, how many punches you do in a 1 minute round or a 2 minute round, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Then you can use that to compare data and show improvement in work rate, workload. You could compare that, if you like, to a heart rate. This then gives your client a non-weight loss related goal, which can be more motivating for some people. That is not what we use them for in boxing. Let me show you what I use these things for, and then you can see a different side to these punch trackers. Okay, with competitive boxers, these punch trackers are used for one purpose alone, testing. That testing is then used in conjunction with other tests. How fast they run 30 meters, 60 meters, how many press-ups they can do in a minute to test muscular strength and endurance, whatever the tests that you would do. But let's focus on what these things do first. Okay, so for this I'll need to move outside of the rope so I can get a bit closer to what is on this board, a periodization model that I'd use. This, for example, is one that I would use for an amateur boxer. Here's one for a professional who's fighting 3 fights a year. And down here we've got an example of a triple periodized year for that same boxer. So we've got 2 different models on here. And what I've done is with this is really simple actually. It's a good little tip. For those of you that know me, you'll know that I'm not one of those PowerPoint kind of guys. I draw shit with a pen. I don't mess around with computers. I leave that to the geeks. I can only aspire to be a geek. Quite frankly, I'm rubbish at this. But this stuff I do understand. So I would take my sliding ruler, I don't know if you can see that there, that has got the months of the year. And what I do is, where the peak needs to be here, you can see these lines here divide the periods of the year. I take this sliding ruler, let's say that I need someone to peak in July, which is just here. I just slide that ruler along here, and this ruler then, because this is to scale, this ruler then tells me where I need to begin this phase, this phase, this phase, and this phase. It also fits with this one as well. If I was looking for a July peak, I would slide that along to July, knowing here that we would need to start this particular phase in January. So that then tells me what I need to do. This, however, is not a talk about periodization. I'll do that in a different talk at some point when I do get time. But what this is about testing. So let's say, for example, at the end of conditioning phase here, let's look at that. So at the end of a conditioning phase, what I'm looking for is for the boxer to be able to have a great deal of volume. They've got this is what I call money in the bank. So they've put money in the bank here, and that's the training volume. They're training to prepare to train hard. Then we'll go into a speed training phase here. Now this will vary in length according to the boxer. But what I'm looking for at the end of this phase here, we get a baseline at the beginning, but what I'm looking for at the end of this is they should be throwing a lot of volume, their punch volume should be high. They should be throwing a lot of punches. Then we take a measurement here. What we do is then, we look then to see at the end of this speed training phase here, we call it preparation in athletics, but at the end of this speed or power training phase there, what we're looking for is to see whether or not we don't want too much of a drop in terms of volume, but what we're looking for is an increase in speed and power on particular punches. And we use the punch trackers in order to measure that and to do that. So we would measure that here. Now, this just doesn't tell me whether or not my program is good. What this tells me is whether the program is working for that boxer. Now, this program may work for you, this program may work for me, but it might not work for someone else. And if I don't assess, I am only guessing. So by measuring this, I would look that their 30-meter times or 60-meter times are lowering, so they're getting faster. I would look that their weights are going up, and also that their speed and power is higher at this point here. These punch trackers allow me to corroborate this data to make sure that I know that all the markers are moving in the right direction. If one of them things is off, then something's wrong. If their punch volume is dropping significantly during this time, then I would know something is wrong. And then I know that I need to correct it. And that program is not working for that boxer. Then we go into a technical phase there, sharpening up, if you like, getting to a peak. And what we're looking for here is for there to be a lot of good technical work done, but with none of the markers here suffering. So that's what we would use the things to do. Now, where this becomes really, really useful as well later is that when I restart them, say on a double, or this is a double periodized model, here's a triple, if at the end of the technical phase they're ahead of where they are when they started here, I know that we're already up a little. You've got to make adjustments for athletes getting older and getting faster and stronger as they do so anyway. But what I can then do is I can use this data here to compare here. Now, if that data then allows me to show that this boxer is getting is a little bit ahead of the game, I may want to tweak these phases here just a little bit in order to make sure that they peak. And one of the things we've got to be very careful of as well is that they don't get stale. And this is a huge problem in boxing, that people get stale, they peak too early, and it is a case of bad periodization. Peaking too early, you see, the thing is that this is all data, and data's great, science is great, but it is sports science is sports science. My degree's in sports science. That's all well and good. And it's useful to a point. But science, eventually, coaching becomes an art. And the art that I'm talking about here is knowing the boxer as an individual. You will never be as good a coach for this guy as somebody else is for this guy, because they know them as an individual. You can apply the science. That's a great, great thing. But what we need to do is we need to apply the art. Now, doing this gets me to know that boxer a lot better. So then I can make adjustments. Then I'm turning the science into an art. Then it allows me to work with that boxer in order to get the right result for them, to know that that program's working for them on an ongoing basis. You'll see over here, this is where we go into, this has got lots of things on here. This is a microcycle here. These microcycles here, if you want to zoom into this and take a snapshot, they fit into here like this. There are certain different models that we can use there. And this here is what we'd call a quadrennial or Olympic plan. This is a 4-year plan, because you can't do too many double periodized years or too many peaks in 1 year in a row. You can only do a couple of years of that before the boxer or athlete is going to start to get injured. So we've got a quadrennial plan there, a single periodized year there, double, and we've got a triple periodized year in there. And this is just a model I use with my sliding ruler. Now let me show you what some of the data throws out on a bit of paper, because I didn't do it on PowerPoint. I just printed the sheet of a photo I took. And I'll show you how I compare some of the data. So I'm on to the third section of this video, and I'm aware that it's getting a bit long. We're up to about 10 minutes thereabouts. I'll make it quick. I don't want to bore the pants off you, but this is what I'd use it for. So in this case here, I don't know if you can see this clearly, but what I've got on this side here is one boxer's marks on the 24th of February, and then on the 21st of April. So this is at the start and at the end of one of those periods. This is actually a speed training period. And what I'm looking for is, can you see there? Now there are different marks on different equipment, but what I'm looking at here is an increase from here to here of speed. And we're looking at around about a 20% increase. Anything more than 14%, that's the magic figure. Anything more than 14%, we know the program's working for them. There's a drop, if there's not 14% in the period, depending on what you're doing with them, that program's not working for that person. So you can see there that the G-forces which are given, I think the G-forces are here, are up significantly. The speeds are also up significantly there. And we've got some averages there, and we can see the punch volume. Now that at the top, can you see the punch volume there to there? There is a tiny, tiny drop of only 1%. So I've gained more than 15-20% within that phase, but I have lost 1% elsewhere. Now that 1% could be negligible, to be honest, but that is what I would do. And as you can see, I'm not a computer guy, so I just printed this off and took a photo of it, and then I did a print there. So as you can see, we're using a very simple tool, and we're combining it with a bit of knowledge to allow us to take something from that is scientific, and then will allow us to then develop that science into an art. And that's what we're trying to do with these things. The long-term data gives us the art. Now for the testing, I've got tests going back to on myself, going back to when I was 12 years old, and I started coaching at 16. And I've got test results for athletes and boxers I've coached going right the way back to when I was 17. So I've got a lot of comparative data that I can use against them. So I can say, you are not as fast as this person. You are faster and can jump further than this person. So I've got a lot of comparative data. Now that is confidential. I can't share that. But this model here, at some point I'll do a talk on how to make one of these and which one is appropriate for you. But for now, that's all I wanted to cover. I hope you found that useful. I really do like the science of these things, but like I say, it is only part of the story. Follow our other videos if they didn't bore you to death. I hope that was useful, and good luck. But those punch counters are a lot more than just a punch counter.